The Aorus Master 16 is the best gaming laptop from Gigabyte that I've tested so far, but it still has some pretty big problems that you need to know about. The Master 16 has a dark blue plastic finish. There's an RGB light bar on the front, one on the back which also prints out Aorus onto your desk, and the lid logo lights up too. The lid has a shiny, wavy looking finish, and I found it surprisingly good at hiding fingerprints. Overall build quality is okay, but it's definitely not premium. There was more flex to the keyboard and lid compared to most other laptops, and this results in more wobble to the screen than I'd like. The hinges feel smooth, making the lid easy to move. If they were a little tighter, it'd probably reduce that lid wobble. There's an indent on the front for getting your finger in to make opening easier. It's slightly bigger compared to their Aorus 16X from last year, and a little chunky at its thickest point. The laptop by itself weighs in at 5.5 pounds or 2.5 kilos, increasing to 7.1 pounds or 3.2 kilos with the 330 watt charger included. It's a middle of the road result when compared against the weights of other similarly sized 16-inch gaming laptops, and heavier compared to last year's thinner Aorus 16X. The Master 16 lowers a couple of positions with the charger included, because despite providing 330 watts of power, the charger is noticeably smaller and lighter compared to most other 330 watt bricks I've seen. My configuration has Intel's new Core Ultra 9 275HX processor, Nvidia's RTX 5090 graphics, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 16-inch QHD Plus 240Hz OLED screen. But this is one of the top spec versions. It is available with lower specs for less money with the link below the video. The keyboard only has 3 zones of RGB backlighting. All keys and secondary functions get lit up. Key brightness can be adjusted between 3 levels or turned off with the function plus spacebar, and this does not change any of the other lighting. If you go into the Gmate software, the control panel for the laptop, and select scenario profile settings and scroll down to RGB Fusion 2.0, you can either sync all light options to the same effect, but that limits you to 4 effects, or you can customize each zone separately, which provides more effect options and customization. Typing feels a bit mushy. I'm not a fan. The keys don't have a nice press, and the middle of the keyboard goes down a bit if you're typing hard. But that said, my partner really enjoyed typing on it, so just goes to show that personal preference will always be a factor. The Q, W, E, R, A, S, D keys are also clear, which I'm also not a fan of, but maybe I'm just not enough of a hardcore gamer. The touchpad, on the other hand, was nice to use and worked well. It feels smooth, accurate, and clicks down anywhere. As for ports, from the back, the left side has the power input, Gigabit Ethernet, HDMI 2.1 output, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port, and a Thunderbolt 5 Type-C port. The right side has a 3.5mm audio combo jack, a UHS 2 MicroSD card slot, a Thunderbolt 4 Type-C port, and a second USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port. A downside of having air exhaust vents on the sides and no ports on the back means that the ports that it does have start creeping closer to the front, which just increases the likelihood that cables are going to get in your way. I like that there's Type A and Type-C ports on both sides of the laptop, and both Type-C ports have PD 3.0 support for charging the laptop with up to 100 watts. Both Type-C ports also have DisplayPort support for connecting a monitor. Version 1.4 on the Thunderbolt 4 port, and the newer version 2.1 on the Thunderbolt 5 port. The left Type-C port connects directly to the NVIDIA graphics, whether Optimus is on or off. But the one on the right didn't output a display signal at all for us. So not sure if this laptop just doesn't like the monitor that we test with, or if it's some kind of driver issue or something else. Because the monitor we test with works just fine with all the other laptops we've reviewed. HDMI always connects directly to the NVIDIA graphics, and we confirmed it could run our LG B9 TV at 4K 120Hz 12-bit with G-Sync. Getting inside requires taking out 12 TR6 screws of 3 different lengths. It was easy to open with these tools. I'll leave a link to them below, but you've got to watch watch out for this ribbon cable that connects the bottom panel to the motherboard for the RGB light bar. I didn't know it was there and almost broke it when opening the laptop. Inside, we've got the battery down the front, 2 memory slots in the middle, and 2 M.2 storage slots. One is faster PCIe Gen 5 and the other Gen 4, but I couldn't find which was which listed anywhere. The Wi-Fi 7 card is hiding underneath the installed SSD. The speeds from the installed 1TB SSD are excellent, and that goes for the UHS-2 microSD card slot too. Some good stuff here. The card clicks in so you don't have to worry about bumping it, but it sticks out enough so that it's still easy to take out. Wi-Fi speeds from the Master 16 smashed my records by a fair amount. This is the fastest Wi-Fi 7 laptop we've tested so far, and is 50% faster than last gen with the same Wi-Fi card. I don't have the older version to retest though, so it's hard to say if new drivers are responsible for the improvement. The upgrade score is a bit lower compared to most other 16-inch gaming laptops. Yeah, it's still got 2 memory slots, 2 M.2 slots, which both fit double-sided drives, and upgradable Wi-Fi, but I always take off half a point for the uncommon screw type to open it up, and another half a point for the stupid ribbon cable design. Asus used to do that a few years ago, and I broke the light bar on one of their laptops when I opened it, so I'm always going to call it out. The 4 2-watt speakers are found underneath. They sound alright, slightly above average for a gaming laptop with some bass, but definitely nothing special. The Latencymon results weren't great in our 5-minute idle test. The Master 16 is powered by a 99 watt-hour battery. It wasn't possible to lower the screen's refresh rate down to 60Hz, so all testing was done with it stuck at 240Hz. You can change the charging mode to limit the maximum charge level of the battery to 80% or 60% instead of full, which helps improve the longevity of the battery. You can go into the AI power gear option to customize system performance on battery power, and whether you want to disable the discrete graphics to help improve battery life. Battery life was decent when running a game, almost lasting 2 hours, but the YouTube video playback test did not complete, despite Windows estimating it would last for 5 to 6 hours. 2 minutes into the test and the laptop froze and restarted itself. I restarted the test and it happened again after 10 minutes. I updated to a newer iGPU driver that came out a day before, and it lasted for about 2 hours before it froze again, and it was at this point I gave up. We're also working on a review of the larger Aorus Master 18, and that one has the same specs and same sized battery, so assuming whatever problem I had with the Master 16 is just affecting my unit, we might expect a similar runtime to this. Let's check out thermals next. The CPU and GPU are covered by a vapor chamber cooler. There are holes in the bottom panel above the fans for intake. Air also comes in through the keyboard and gets exhausted out of the left and right sides and out of the vents on the back corners. Gigabyte's Gmate control panel software allows us to change between different performance modes on the homepage or from the scenario profile setting tab. From lowest to highest, the available modes are power saving, online meeting, balance, creator, and game mode. The software does not let you customize any CPU or GPU power limits. You only get the 5 performance modes. For each mode, you can customize fan speed through the smart cooling option. Unfortunately, some of the fan options are grayed out depending on the performance mode, and you're also not able to customize the fan curve. I tried and the software glitched out, but maybe it doesn't matter, as a lot of the time we found changing the fan mode to not work. Most of the time we had to toggle between different fan modes for it to actually change. There's also this AI boost option. It gets enabled by default with game mode enabled, and it boosts the GPU memory core by 200 MHz. There's a fan icon on the F7 key, which I assume is supposed to be a shortcut for setting the fans to max speed, but it didn't do anything for me. You can also type to the AI assistant for some basic tasks like changing performance modes, but it's not very good. Rather than AI, it seems to be more keyword based. In this example, we're pretending to be an unknowing new user asking for the best performance, which after testing I know is game mode, but it seems to only be changing the Windows power mode, which isn't isn't what we want. Upon informing it that the performance mode is still in balance mode, it notices that we said balance mode and sets the mode that we're already in. The thing is, if I already know that the best performance is called game mode, I could ask it to change to game mode, or I could use less effort by simply clicking the game mode button. But then if I'm a new user, asking it for the highest performance mode didn't switch me out of balance mode, making the AI assistant unhelpful for both beginners and power users. The internal temperatures were cool at idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst-case full-load scenario. Even in the worst case, none of these temperatures are particularly hot. We're talking mid-80s worst case, far from the high 90s we usually see in gaming laptops. Running with the AI option off was slightly warmer than using it. Setting the fans to max speed only lowered the temps slightly, but at the expense of louder fans, which you'll hear soon. Temps only increased slightly with the lid closed, so no problem if you want to dock the laptop in terms of thermals. CPU temps actually get higher when we run the cooling pad at higher RPM. This is because CPU performance increases with the cooling pad. Basically, the laptop knows it's getting more airflow, so it pumps more power into the CPU, boosting performance, but also CPU temperatures. You can find the pad I test with linked below. Best case, the CPU was running at around 114 watts with the GPU at 133. Good stuff. But as you'll hear soon, it's also extremely loud like this and not worth doing. The same amount of power was used whether we turn AI mode on or off. But it does also affect fan speed. More on that soon. Here's how the Aorus Master 16 performs in an actual game with the different performance modes. I've got the native results without upscaling shown in purple, and a demonstration of the performance improvement that's possible by setting DLSS 4 to balanced in red. Even the lowest power saving mode is running above 60 FPS without DLSS on ultra settings at the native 2560 by 1600 screen resolution, so you can definitely still play games with less fan noise if you prefer. Using the AI mode boosted FPS slightly due to the GPU overclock. The CPU can use more power in a CPU-only workload like Cinebench where the GPU is idle. There's no real difference between game mode and creator mode here, while balance mode isn't too far behind. The Aorus Master 16 has broken our record for sustained multi-core score in this test. This is the first laptop we've had with Intel's new Core Ultra 9 275HX CPU, so that's to be expected. The 14900HX that's almost matching it has liquid cooling, but if we only count air cooling results, then it's 9% faster than the next best result, with a slightly higher single core score too. Performance lowers if we unplug the charger and instead run off of battery power. The multi-core score drops in half, but it's still one of the higher results relative to most other laptops that we've tested. More importantly, the single core performance remains fairly high, which I've found also tends to coincide with less random freezes when working on battery power. As for keyboard temps, most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range on the keyboard at idle, but this one had a hotspot towards the bottom of the keyboard which felt a bit warm. Temperatures increase with the stress test running. The spacebar area is in the mid-40s in power save mode, while online meeting mode pushes it up to the mid-50s, at least when under full load. It's fairly similar in balance mode, despite the fans actually running quieter in this mode than online meeting. Creator mode is a bit cooler due to louder fans, and then game mode isn't too bad. The WASD area is cool, though the left wrist rest is a little warmer than the rest for some reason. The hottest point of the keyboard in the highest game mode wasn't too bad when compared to most other laptops. Overall, it feels comfortable enough when resting your hand and gaming. And to be fair, the hottest part of the spacebar is the area surrounding it rather than the key that you're touching. Here's how the fans sound. The fans were silent when doing nothing at idle. Interestingly, the fans were slightly quieter with the default AI mode enabled in game mode, and louder with the AI option off. AI on also runs slightly cooler too, so yeah, might as well leave it turned on when possible as it appears to help a bit. Maxing the fans out is very loud and not recommended, considering that it only lowered temperatures by a few degrees. Running the cooling pad at 800 RPM was similar in total volume to just using game mode without the pad, but the temperatures were lower by a couple of degrees. When we're not manually boosting the fans, the highest game mode wasn't too loud relative to most other gaming laptops that we've tested. It's even a little quieter compared to their last gen Aorus 16X, despite that having lower tier specs. Alright, let's talk about the screen. I believe this is the first time Gigabyte have used an OLED panel in their gaming laptops, so I'm not counting error. Color gamut is excellent, but Delta E out of the box wasn't super impressive considering it comes Pantone validated. Brightness maxed out at around 400 nits in SDR mode at 82%, as per the blue bar. Turning the brightness up higher from that point made no difference, which I don't think is something I've ever seen before. But with HDR on, our unit was able to hit 630 nits. It's pretty average compared to other OLED laptops in SDR mode, but the brightness in HDR was notably better compared to the others, and competing with some mini LED panels which are usually brighter. That said, Gigabyte advertises the laptop at 500 nits, so your mileage may vary. Every panel is different. Backlight bleed doesn't exist, as black results in pixels being turned off. The glossy panel looks nice, but the reflections will get annoying if you're using the laptop in a bright environment. And like other OLED panels, PWM is used to adjust brightness, which may be annoying for some. The Gmate software has an OLED care option, but like a lot of other features, it doesn't actually tell you what it does. It's also not on by default, so assuming it does something to help reduce the likelihood of OLED burn-in, you'll probably want to turn it on. Average grey-to-grey screen response time was excellent, at less than half a millisecond. So it's super quick, just like other OLED panels that we've tested. They're all significantly faster compared to any other panel technology out there, and ideal for competitive players. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in Counter-Strike 2. The Master 16 is one of the fastest results compared to many other laptops, and only beaten slightly by liquid cooling of 4090. The Master 16 has advanced Optimus, so you can swap between Optimus on or off without rebooting. Having advanced Optimus means it must have a muck switch, but the traditional muck switch option isn't available through software, so if you need that for some reason, you'll have to go to the BIOS. G-Sync is only available when Optimus is off, but Adaptive Sync is available from the integrated graphics when Optimus is on. There's a 1080p camera above the screen, and it has IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock. Here's how the camera and microphones look and sound, and this is what it sounds like while typing on the keyboard. Alright, let's test out some games and see how well the RTX 5090 laptop graphics compares against other laptops in Gigabyte's Aorus Master 16. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested with our own custom test run, and I've got the Master 16 shown by the red highlight. We're looking at a 13% higher average frame rate compared to our best RTX 4090 result, or 7% ahead of Razer's Blade 16 with the same GPU. The Master 16 gets beaten slightly by a 4090 laptop with liquid cooling at 1440p, at least in terms of average FPS. There are less dips in performance with the Master 16, as shown by it having the highest 1% low result out of all laptops shown. It falls back a few places at the lower 1080p resolution, as GPU power matters less at lower resolutions like this. I mean, it's still running the game very well. It just kinda sucks that last-gen CPUs and GPUs are able to come out ahead at all. But then again, who's buying a 5090 laptop to play at 1080p? Control is a GPU-heavy game, and the 5090 in the Master 16 was 10% ahead of our best liquid-cooled 4090 laptop, or 13% ahead of the 4090 if we're only counting air cooling from much larger laptops. It's also 15% ahead of the 5090 in Razer's thinner Blade 16. So it just goes to show that having the same GPU inside doesn't mean mean you should expect similar performance. The Master 16 is still the fastest gaming laptop we've ever tested in this game at 1440p, both in terms of average FPS and 1% lows. And that's still the case at 1080p too, though the gap between it and the 4090 laptops isn't that big. Like I said in our recent Blade 16 review, Red Dead Redemption 2 just crashes in the exact same spot on DirectX 12, so we weren't able to test it. I found a whole Reddit thread of people facing the exact same issue with Nvidia's 50 series GPUs. So it's not just us, and looks like they need to fix something. Here are the 3D Mark results. Content creator tests are generally pretty good on the Master 16, but we still don't have proper Blackwell support for Resolve or Premiere just yet, as those are still in beta. The BIOS is nice to look at, but there isn't much customization available compared to other brands like MSI or Lenovo, so this might not be the one if you're into tuning. Linux support was tested with an Ubuntu 24.10 live CD. By default, the keyboard, touchpad, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth, speakers, and camera all work. Keyboard shortcuts for adjusting volume, keyboard lighting brightness, and screen brightness all worked too. A great result. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and current sales. And if the Master 16 does have a good sale, we'll be sure to add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the latest sales. So make sure that you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop with that link below. At the time of recording in mid-April, the Aorus Master 16 starts at $2,400 for the RTX 5070 Ti graphics. Now, I haven't tested the RTX 5070 Ti laptop GPU just yet, but you can get a higher quality RTX 4090 laptop for less money than that. These new Aorus laptops are listed as coming soon on Best Buy, so hopefully once they are available, the price lowers a bit, because that's just crazy, especially considering the RTX 5080 version goes for $3,100, while the 5090 version I've tested here is $4,300, which is frankly just insane because you can get Razer's Blade 16 for that. And no offense to Gigabyte, but the Master 16 isn't in the same league as the Blade 16. That's the biggest problem that I've got with the Master 16. It's just way too expensive for what you're getting, at least right now at launch. Again, links below to see if that's changed. And that's even more so the case when you consider the plastic build quality, which just has more flex and wobble compared to a lot of other laptops out there. Not to mention Gigabyte's new Gmate software made it feel like we were the beta testers. It still needs some work. The failure to complete my battery test just has to be a problem with this unit, because that's just too serious of an issue, and I haven't heard of anyone else having similar problems yet. But look, if the price does eventually come down, the performance from the Master 16 is quite good, and Gigabyte has made some nice improvements this generation. The OLED screen looks excellent, response time and latency are super low for competitive gamers, and it broke a number of performance records, including Wi-Fi and even some gaming and CPU benchmarks. But to be fair, this is our first laptop with the 275HX, so don't be surprised if that changes in some upcoming reviews. And of course, it's got plenty of RGB lighting, so you'll be set for gaming. But if you're spending this much money, you might as well just get Razer's Blade 16 for the same price. Performance isn't quite as good, as you'll see in my review, but that's because it's a thinner, more portable laptop. But despite that, all around I do think it's a much better laptop for the same money. So I'll see you in that one next if you are looking for a high-end gaming laptop.